Hey, hello. Hello, everyone. Damn. Hope you had a great day thus far. Can't say the same for myself, at least. But before I go on yapping for our weekend review, and yep, let me just see if the audio is bearable. Give me a second. All right. As good as you can expect from a headset microphone, I suppose. I kind of need fresh air. I've been sitting, I don't know for how long, pretty long, I think. An hour, at least an hour. Been sitting here for an hour trying to bug fix something um for this like VLC extension that I tried to get to show you what I'm listening to, you know, while drawing. So like say I have a muted stream with only the background music running. That's the only thing you will hear, right? I kind of thought, well, maybe somewhere, let me see. I kind of have a lot of windows open here. Sorry about that. So somewhere like here, for example, or maybe up here, wherever, right? Down here, doesn't really matter. I thought would be nice to have a widget to show you what I'm listening to right now for myself. The thing that you don't hear me listening to, right? Because I'm not listening to the current background when I'm muting my microphone to not talk in the stream. I think I would go insane. Pretty much, yes. So I kind of thought that might be, a fun idea. And I tried to look and see if there's any interesting plugins for OBS to do that. There is. There's also a few plugins for VLC that do something similar. Then I found this overlay. Base principle, as far as I understood it, was local server reads files created by a VLC plugin. So the VLC plugin just writes into plain text files what I'm currently listening to. So it captures metadata, image, everything, everything in relation to that piece of music, writes it into plain text files, and then this overlay would read those files and essentially create a website hosted locally on my PC that I can only really reach through a local host URL, right? To then display a widget of like 480 to 100 pixels in size that I can then use in OBS as a browser source to show you basically. So yeah, and I'm not like a coder, like a programmer, much less a network administrator or like I don't know what they are called, programmers that basically just build the server infrastructure, right? I'm not that kind of guy, so I don't know how to audit anyone's source code on GitHub or GitLab or whatever to determine if what they're doing is actually, right. But I looked through some things in the cloned repository, and I was like, so there's a bunch of hooks, right? can't explain to you what that means in like technical terms because I'm not that knowledgeable about them. But yeah, I was just kind of surprised to see a hook to send emails, let's say, because my mind was like, okay, there's just going to be a bunch of things necessary to run a server, right? I just looked through the files, saw a hook for sending emails, opened the file, read that this is exactly that, like a base hook example. No, not example, I think it was differently worded. Yeah, to send emails. And I was like, why would you need to send an email when your job is to create a locally hosted website effectively? Because that is what this was. I create a website, locally hosted, format, and live update, essentially, the information as it comes in through the files created by the VLC plugin. So I was like, why would you need an email hook? Yeah. Anyway, I deleted everything. And then I changed every password of every account that I was logged in at that time. So, yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll have my account stolen by tomorrow or something. Or maybe in a week or so. I don't know. We will see. Might not have been the greatest of ideas. Anyway, let's put that aside for now and look at what we did last week. I'm pretty sure it's kind of like it's kind of weird. So I'm like, I don't know, my mind is kind of telling me that I'm not counting correctly. So we are at day 57, right? Technically, today should be the last day of the week, yes? Not, however, if you count day 50, right? That's then technically 8 days. Because we are counting the 0, no? So like, let's say you count from 1 to 7, 7 numbers, right? But if you count from 0 to 7, it's 8 numbers. Technically, like, I mean, I'm sure there's some semantic argument or mathematical argument as to why 0 isn't a number and whatever else, but for simplicity's sake, right? Like 50 is a number, 51, 52, 53, 54, 50. Wait, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, okay. Okay. Yes. Well, anyway, today we're doing week in review anyway. Either way, regardless. So let's get right into it. And before I forget, what I certainly noticed, let me just find my earlier notes here. Week in review, top priorities. I'll put it under top priorities and I'll add it with a fine liner because I can. Is to slow down and construct properly. Construct properly. So, the reason I write this down is because, if you've been watching, right, when I was doing the, what would you say, combination of putting in the values, I guess, as well as the the color, right? Because I kind of did that at the same time. I don't know, maybe that's a bad idea, maybe it's a good idea, we'll see. I'm certainly not as fast as I could be, but that again is the reason why I wrote down to slow down and to construct properly, because what I felt like I did most of the time, yesterday and the day before, was fixing the terrible, terrible construction. And not even well, mind you. You know, it's not like I know everything so perfectly. You know, I have it in my mind intrinsic, like saved already, you know, to the point where I can just pull out all the forms that make a human body and just perfectly construct them, right? I have no anatomical knowledge beyond the most basic stuff you would see by just observing regular people and reference, right? So anyway, point is, I felt like I've been just trying to fix the poor, terrible construction that I kind of rushed, you know? So it's like, yeah. I kind of don't want to repeat that if that's possible. So I definitely have a lot of work to do still on my ability to sketch. So let me see. This is breaking down forms concerning the figure. Actually, let me... Issues when loosely constructing, being off center, being off proportion. Okay. So let's see. Okay, concerning the figure. That kind of seems contradictory, the stuff that I wrote down in that. This is also stupid. Stupid. I kind of just want to focus on these things concerning mechs. Goals for week 5. Top priorities. And I guess... the first half of concerning the figure. Because the rest is kind of like... It's stuff like find useful warm-up practice, which, yes, sure. Learning how to draw ellipses. But honestly... the way I've been drawing yesterday and the day before, I kind of felt like none of that really mattered. Unironically, like, I'm not saying this to confuse anyone, but like finding useful warm-up practice, I don't know. I mean, honestly, since the goal is repetition, I mean, yes, sure, finding warm-up practice can be useful if you're doing a lot of paint studies or painting in general, because you will likely not be do a whole lot of sketching. So it's like it's a balancing act in a sense of that you have to consider this, right? When you're drawing something, you're constructing the figure, right? You're putting down the armature, or whatever you call it, your base model kind of deal to get the pose, right? Perhaps you also add at that stage, at the sketching stage, your props, you know, armor, swords, that kind of deal. And you then have to consider, wait, I lost right? How long you're spending on these, how much time you're spending on the sketch, right? And if your goal essentially is to rectify your wobbly lines, practicing to draw straight lines specifically certainly going to help you, but it's not going to make you draw necessarily better, I think, like unironically. And what I mean by this is that let me see where it is. I don't want to save, thank you. Right, so the day before yesterday, right, I drew this tree here. And you know, not to blow my own horn or anything, unironically, I really think this tree looks nice. It's not a perfect tree, but it's good enough to where you could say, oh, that's a nice looking tree. It's a nice looking tree. It's not a great looking tree. It's not a perfect tree, you know, whatever that might mean, but you could put off the inconsistencies here somewhat. You could put them off as like stylistic choice, you know? But like, if you zoom in, the lines are wobbly, they're ugly, they're like all over the place, essentially. Like I really, actually, I focused on not getting this right, on not doing straight lines, you know, with this tree. And like the fix of the skull also was kind of weird. Like I felt like I was way off with my initial sketch. Like it was terrible. It was a terrible time. And then I just traced it, as you saw, you know, in the stream. So I don't know. I mean, I'm starting to remember these forms here. This is a bit weird, but these general forms around the cheeks, you know, starting to remember the jaw lines a bit better. Although I did have quite a difficulty trying to fix the sketch of Lizu's face. Like this feels okay. This sketch, so to say, it feels okay. Like I would probably put away like this line here and this line here, and then just emphasize the left side here, or rather the right side of the neck. Right? That's what I would fix necessarily. I don't know if that's the word that fit here. Anyway, I kind of felt like I was having immense trouble figuring out this angle, you know? Like I still don't really know where the, like, what do you even call this part? The lower jaw essentially moves over into the ear, because that's also a good landmark, right? And I tried to figure that one out, or rather put it on paper, I should say. So like if you just touch your own lower jaw, right? Say, oh, let me get a black here. So if you touch your lower jaw, right, the end of it, you'll feel this, right? This like, well, angle. I don't know what to call this part of the bone, if it even has a name, or if it's just like part of the jaw, the lower jaw, you know? I don't know. I mean, I could look it up. Let me just actually see if I can't find anything interesting here. Perhaps it is. Let's go. Rotate and zoom. Whoops. There we are. All right, so the mandible. Okay, so it's, yeah, the mandible. Maxilla. It's just the mandible. Though we could probably figure out if that also includes the muscular system. Let me just see. What would the the muscle be called around here? That I'm interested in kind of right now. Interesting. So that's platysma. Okay, interesting. Or the left or right masseter. Masseter? Masseter. Masseter. So like a combination of the left platysma and the left masseter. Masseter. Kind of like the muscles going around here. Going on around there. Okay. Interesting. Platysma. Masseter. Huh. Let me just see. So where would the ear actually be? Because I understand that the skin is there, but at least for this 3D model, the skin doesn't seem to actually be on top of the muscles or bones. It's more like there's some extra fat or something. Let me see. What would that be? Would it be part of the digestive system? It is actually. Yes, it is part, apparently, of the digestive system, if I'm seeing this correctly. Interesting. But let me check if that's actually true. Okay, so that's the parotid gland. Parotid gland. That kind of sits directly next to your ear. I wonder what that does. Isolate. Actually, let me go back. Rotate in 3D. Let me just drink something. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I had a lot of issues trying to fix the jaw on that side, because I just couldn't figure out the angle, because I didn't construct anything properly, especially the center lines. Like, I need center lines. If I don't draw them, I get lost immediately. And that's an issue, you know, because if I don't know where to center in relation to, say, where to place a feature in relation to the center of the head, because, you know, if I don't know that, immediately, if it's not immediately obvious to myself, I just make a mess. It just turns out bad, really, really bad. Parotid gland is one of the two largest salivary glands. Okay, between sternocleidomastoid muscle and the masseter. Oh, okay. So it's actually not, the masseter is actually further. It's closer to the ear. Okay, kind of looks so close to it. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, enough looking at random anatomical models. What did I want to say with this? I'm not quite sure. I think I just wanted to say that I have an issue. Right, and if you kind of feel, you know, where this edge, essentially, where this angle stops. It's pretty much that the ear immediately starts there, right? So like you go up a bit and you're immediately at the ear. And I tried putting that in the sketch, but I just couldn't. I failed. I failed so hard that I had to move on. And the nose also gave me a lot of issues. So let me just write that down. I want to slow down, construct properly, and I kind of want to look at constructing noses. Like actually studying that, constructing the nose. And ears. To get a better idea of what I'm actually trying to draw here. Because like, what I also have a lot of issues with, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, is the placement of the nose in general. Because as you can see here, it kind of feels wrong, but it's not so wrong that you just can't look at it. But I always want to put it somewhere like here. I would want to put it somewhere like here right now. Because, you know, if you follow this eye, I don't know, socket essentially, you'd have to draw the nose somewhere in this realm, right? Because they are connected here. And the reason the eye essentially in perspective is, let's say, getting higher. So like a shorthand I've seen people use to describe that the eye is in perspective is to just simply shorten it on the, is it horizontal? So if this is the original size of the eye, right? This is the original size, right? If you wanted to draw the same eye on the other side, on the left side, and it's in perspective, you would probably do something like this. So actually I'm doing it a bit incorrectly, I think. But it's difficult to say. Let me see. This might actually, yeah, it might barely make sense actually. Because it's not too high. So like what you want to be careful of is that you don't make it too high. So you don't push it too far on the vertical. But you basically just reduce it on the horizontal. What you also have to consider is that the eye itself, the size of this here, by necessity has to give way, since the reason why this is shrinking, or one of the reasons, is that the nose bridge, right, is now covering more of this eye. Because you would just be able to do this, right? Let's say this is a nose. Light comes from this side, right? And then we have eye number 1. And something like eye number 2. It's a bit too small, the other eye here. Let me just move it a bit to the side. All right. Not perfect, but it should be good enough. The distance isn't quite right, which you notice easily. So something like this. It's like it's good enough. It's good enough as a demonstration. So like, you know, if you consider that the eye obviously has the same size when you look at it from the front, You also have to consider that all of these forms shift to whatever, you know, angle you're drawing them from. So if you're drawing them from the right side in a 45 or 3/4, sorry, 3/4 angle, right? This thing, this side here, for example, would have to shrink by that degree of turning, essentially, up to the point where you just don't see the eye anymore. And that's because there is a nose. The nose bridge hides it. Otherwise, you would basically see it so long as you see the other eye. Or, well, not so long as you see the other eye, but basically up until the point where the other eye starts actually hiding. So like the right eye starts hiding the left eye, or the left eye starts hiding the right eye, because they're both like spheres, right? And they jut out, you know, of the head slightly. They jut in and they jut out a bit, right? Because they are inside a socket, right? So if this is the eye, let's say, well, it's a weird eye, but let's say this is the eye. Up here would be something like the eyebrow, right? And the eyelid. Goes something like this. Something like this. You know, not exactly. This is not like supposed to be an anatomical study. But this is basically the eye, right? And then you have the nose. Depending on if this is like the, you know, left or right eye. Let's say it's the left eye. We're looking at the left eye. You would then see the nose behind the eye, right? But you now don't see the other eye anymore because it's hidden by the nose. Not just the bridge, but this whole skull part as well, if I'm not mistaken. Because if you think about it, it's something like this, right? That's effectively what the skull looks like in this part here. And the nose bridge is this part, I think, right? Is it this part? I think it's that part, or is it that part? So like the tissue, if it's either the tissue or the bone, I'm not quite sure anymore right now. But yeah. You then have the nostrils, sorry. I think on this side, somewhere here. Not too certain about this, I'd have to actually look at it. But I would assume they are in front of this like nose hole, right? This bony hole here that goes back into your skull. So it's actually hidden by this bone part. Yeah, anyway. If your head is turning, the eye shrinks because the nose is hiding it. That's the simple answer, I would say. Why did I bring this up? Oh, right. In relation to this. And so sometimes I just have like this immense difficulty placing this correctly because I just can't figure out, since I didn't draw it, where the center line would be. And then figure out, as a consequence of not knowing where the center line is, where the eye socket actually starts and where it ends in relation to the nose. And then figure out how much the nose is actually hiding, you know, the yes, the eye. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Anyway, let's move on. Let me remove all of that. So I kind of want to look at eyes. I kind of want to look at everything. Eyes, noses, ears, you know. But what I also noticed was my perspective, like the issues I had with laying out the perspectives for the drawing. When I drew the sword. So I tried here to replicate these grooves, right? So, but if you now follow, if you follow the width of the actual blade part of the sword, so like the, you know, what would you call this part here that's actually sharpened? Because not the entire sword is sharp, obviously, you know, the edge, I think, right? If you just observe the tapering, is that the word? Of the edge, where essentially it concentrates then on the point here, on the sharp point, where it tapers into this V, right? It's very high V shape. So like, if we say something like this, right? Just roughly, super elongated V shape. The blade parts get smaller, or thinner rather, you know? And while the grooves also do that, I think they don't seem to stay the exact same size all the way through. Do they? Maybe they do, actually. Maybe they do. Either way, I kind of found it really difficult to figure out how to do this. So like I've tried doing it here. If you look closely, it appears that the groove is getting larger while the blade is getting smaller, you know, the bladed part of the sword. So, and I've been kind of like overthinking this, I think, but I'll try to add it here today too. We'll see. Either way, I've been having real trouble figuring out where the actual vanishing point was, because I didn't draw it in. So again, we go back to the initial note I made of being, you know, to slow down and to construct properly. I don't know how to emphasize this more than I already have, but if you aren't constructing properly already, and if you're just starting out, make sure you construct. Make sure you do it. Because if you understand the underlying construction, you can leave it out too. Like, I'm doing that occasionally, and that's the issue. Like I do know some things enough, especially like head, you know, eye placement, and I understand the nose and mouth placement roughly. Not as well as other artists, of course, because I didn't put in the time to study those things specifically. But in a general sense, I understand the balance aspect of art. You know, I understand that there is this balance that you can, you know, instinctually, essentially see if you just observed a few faces, let's say in my case. Anyway, I occasionally leave out the construction phase to the detriment of my overall completion time, let's say. And I kind of don't want to do that, but that my slow completion speed might just be a function not necessarily of improper construction, but of simply not enough practical experience. So in a sense, it might just be that I haven't done this often enough to feel confident enough to do it faster, and not necessarily be due to the fact that I'm constructing very poorly. You know what I mean? But we'll figure it out. I'll try to keep these things in mind. And I'll have to take a short break here. Do something. I'll be right back. Maximum 10 minutes. I hope to be faster. Sorry. Let me just write that down. So yeah. I'm also probably going to have to end the stream earlier today because I didn't cook yet. And I have to cook. I have to cook food. So, yeah. Reason was the bug fixing. I shouldn't have done that. I just kind of felt motivated to try my hand at finding like these plugins and overhauls and such, as I explained earlier. But yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. An hour wasn't enough. I should have known better. But it is what it is. All right. So I'll be right back. And then we'll move over to no microphone. And I'll turn on my music to listen to. So yeah, try and find a playlist you want to listen to. I might actually put some playlists on the channel, things that I occasionally listen to. We'll see. I still kind of want to figure out if there is like a way to make the initial idea work with the currently playing thing. I know of some other plugins for OBS that can do that, but you know. Anyway, we'll see. I'll try my hand at that maybe later today after I cooked food, or maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I'll try not to bug fix that long again, because it's just tiring, you know. I hope I didn't get hacked. Anyway, see you in a bit. All right, okay, I've returned. Sorry for the delay. Sometimes I'm really wondering how the girls do it, or any of the Hololive talents really, Holostars included, especially, I should say, especially the Holostars, you know. But there is Bibu and Kyla, so, you know, and occasionally, Callie. Why did I forget her name? What the hell? Sorry about that. That really put in, or used to put in the hours, you know, to the point where I'm like, how do they do it? How do they do it? Like ever since I started, like I mean, I get the idea, and perhaps that's the mindset I don't have yet since I'm not gaming. But like I understand it when you're gaming, you just sit down and you just play a video game, and suddenly 8 hours pass. But I would assume, at least for me, it's like a bit more difficult to do this whole stream thing. I think maybe not. I don't know. At least in art, it seems to be when I'm talking to be a slight hindrance. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. Sorry. Yeah. Nothing but respect, essentially, is what I wanted to say, I think. Right? Or did I want to say anything else? Yes. I have nothing but respect for people that just, you know, don't have to stand up and move around. Because, like, I have to. If I don't stand up and move around a bit, I'll just die in my chair. Or if I don't sit down after standing for like 5 hours, I also have to sit down because the floor is too hard. So it's like, maybe it's just my unique circumstance, perhaps. Perhaps all of the floors are perfectly like soft and comfortable to walk on and stand on for hours on end. And perhaps their chairs are all high quality, like I don't know, steel case chairs or something. I don't know. Is steel case good? I know it's expensive, but anyway, it's a discussion for another time. Yeah, I just want to draw now, so I'm gonna append a no mic thing section. Should I? Oh well, it will be fine. It's been an hour already. This is insane. Although less, since I didn't start perfectly on time, right? It was like 7 minutes after scheduled time. Yeah. Anyway. Yes. I'll see you at the end of the stream again. Talk to you a bit. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, of course, in chat. But we're now moving into the no mic section. I should do like a banner for like these things, I think. That might be interesting, huh? Like just a no mic banner. Like a news feed, essentially, right? I should try doing that. Should try and work on an overlay or something. But I kind of want to finish at least one fan art piece first before I start like upgrading all of these things. It's like this is the first milestone I kind of want to get behind me. So, you know, I want to complete first before I unlock the next upgrades. Essentially, that's the way I'm thinking of this. So this might still be far off. But regardless, let me just write it down so I don't forget it. No mic overlay, or just try to work on overlay. And I've been thinking if I should change the name of the channel. Don't know if that's a good idea or not. We'll see. Try to work on overlay for the stream. So like a no mic section and maybe like new thumbnails. But I'm not an editor, so unironically I really don't want to do a whole lot in terms of thumbnails, but I at least want a new animation for stream start and end. Stream so we'll see what I come up with. Yeah, anyway, see you at the end of today's episode in grinding art. Anyway, I hope you learned something and have a lot of fun while drawing. Guys, it feels like I'm going one step ahead and then 5 steps back. It's like, I could do this like this, and then I try some changes, and then I don't know, it turns out shit. Which is why I saved this as a separate file. I hope it worked the way I wanted it to. Let's just see if it did. Should I save it now? Ooh, I mean, I still have the backup, so even if it didn't... Okay. I think I can already see it here. Does seem like it did work. But now, like, if you look at the left image here, right? The one I worked on very poorly. Although I do have to say I like the way I did the ahoge, I think is the name, right? Ahoge? Like the... What's the translation? I feel like I literally just read it from like my shield hero. Wait, I don't even remember the name of the show now. The Shield Hero. The Shield Hero? I think it is the Shield Hero. Right? I'm kind of like, what the hell? Oh, it's not... Is it Shield Hero? It's not Shield Hero either. Am I stupid? The Rising of the Shield Hero. Fuck that. Oh! Idiocy everywhere you look. Right. Rising of the Shield Hero. How could I not remember that? Anyway. Because of like, you know, Philo getting the crown essentially. Anyway, kind of like what I did there with that, but aside from that, I feel like I went back like 6 hours, unironically. Like I deleted so much, not even sure anymore what I want to do with this. Anyway, gonna end here. See you next time, probably. Take care of yourselves.